One of the things that I've noticed about stories is that to tell a story is kind of a creative act. It can create the reality or something that co-resonates with the reality that you are prophesizing with the story. So, for example, you talked about China. When one is very firmly in a story of us versus them, a story of competition for supremacy, a story of empire, then it's very hard to actually understand multipolarity, which is where much of the world, if not most of the world, is now moving toward. From the vantage point of, an ideologue in the U.S. foreign policy establishment, all this stuff about multipolarity just seems like a cover story for an attempt to supplant us as the hegemon. It's hard to even see it. Well, I then, ironically and tragically, if we are so adamant in seeing enemies all over the place and are aggressive, thinking that, well, we're just preempting them, we're just striking first because they're going to strike us otherwise. Like, from that position, we create the enemies that we're afraid of and kind of mold the world into the image of that ideology. Then, so what can liberate us from it? And I really loved your point about the addiction to a story and to the adrenaline and the false sense of power that comes from it. And I know that this is what Code Pink does. You don't come to the people who are holding the story of empire, the story of war, the story of us versus them with the attitude of, I'm going to take you down. It's actually an act of service to them too, because this story is no longer a fit accommodation for the human spirit. And maybe I'm overgeneralizing or being a little optimistic here, but I think that on some level, people feel trapped in that story. They feel unfulfilled. And that's why no amount of wealth or power can ever be enough, because it doesn't meet the real need. How much money does it take to meet the need? It's a genuine need for security and belonging. If $1 billion wasn't enough, is 2 billion going to be enough? Is 10 billion going to be enough? No. And how much power over the other, how much full spectrum dominance is going to meet the need for security? If what we have now hasn't met the need, no amount is going to meet the need. So then you can come to people who are trapped in that story and with an attitude of generosity and kindness and say, oh, I know what you really want, and here's a way to do it. Sometimes, if we're really able to inhabit that strongly, people can sense it. They sense that we're not a threat. We're not an enemy. And another part of them, the part of them that is the guardian of a particular story, will instantly recognize you as a threat to that story. But there's another part of them that wants to accept you. And maybe the work of peace is to speak to that part and to nourish that part.